Okay, thanks for joining. I am Diana Byrne. I have Jenny French here with me. She's going to be manning the chat. Jenny and I work together at Engaging Learners, which is a fantastic company for that does professional development. For this webinar that we're doing today is about creating a comprehensive AI policy for schools. And AI isn't just a passing trend. That's why we're doing this. It's becoming embedded in every tool that teachers, students, and administrators use daily. And without clear policies, schools risk inconsistency, confusion, and even breaches of privacy or academic integrity. A strong AI policy creates clarity, equity, and trust, and it ensures that students know how and when AI can be used, that teachers have essentially guardrails for instructions or for instruction rather, and that families understand what the expectations are. When we create a comprehensive AI policy, there are generally 10 steps or 10 sections that you can and should include in your policy. Remember that this is a guideline though, so you can adapt it however it works for you. We're going to approach it today as if we're writing a policy for a school or for a district. But again, you can modify it for a classroom or a specific department. The first step is purpose and scope. And this section defines why the policy even exists and who it applies to, like students, staff, families, contractors, etc. And it matters because without this, policies sort of feel like rules with no context, which undermines trust. And when you state the scope, it essentially prevents inconsistency. Like, for example, one teacher might ban AI altogether while another person might encourage it. An example of a good policy might be this supports responsible AI use to enhance teaching and learning while safeguarding privacy and academic integrity. It applies to all students and staff using AI on school devices, networks, or for schoolwork. And a weak policy might just say, don't use AI to cheat. Okay, not good. Doesn't really help us out much. You want to know that defining the purpose and scope essentially sets the foundation for the entire AI policy. So when everyone clearly understands why the policy exists and who it applies to, it sort of builds trust by showing, that expectations are fair and it ensures consistency. Students and staff receive the same guidance across classrooms, and it creates a shared commitment to using AI responsibly, really across the whole school community. Step 2 are definitions. Now, definitions, you know what that is. It's a glossary of terms, just like any other thing with definitions. So, for example, AI might be a term, generative AI, assistive AI, LLM, disclosure, evidence. You know that AI stands for artificial intelligence. Generative AI is AI that creates new content from prompts or generates new content from prompts. You could think of ChatGPT. That might be something that you're familiar with. It's kind of like a pretty standard one. And ChatGPT, for example, might write an essay based on a prompt that you give to it. It's generating something. Generative AI is a pretty common term, and it's a pretty popular term. It's a good one to know. Assistive AI is also very popular in schools. And assistive AI is something that improves or checks existing work and gives feedback and support. You can think of like Grammarly, for example, which might suggest like grammar changes or style corrections, something that could autocorrect, like Google Docs autocorrects or finishes your sentence. Those are examples of assistive AI. Generative generates something, assistive helps you out. Large language model is what LLM is. A large language model is an AI that's trained on just tons and tons of text so that it understands and generates human-like language. Again, ChatGPT is an example of that. Think of generative AI as like the big category, and large language models, or LLM, is a subcategory underneath that. generative AI might be like a vehicle, whereas LLMs are a car. So it's just a type of it. All LLMs are generative AI, but not all generative AI is a large language model. Because large language model, think of it as like mostly text. Generative AI can create images, it can create music. Now, why does it matter to have definitions? It matters because students and families can't follow policy if they don't understand or know what actually counts as AI. So, is Grammarly AI? Is Google Translate AI? The definitions help to eliminate confusion. And you could see here on the screen that a good policy would define the categories and give examples, kind of like what I was just saying, but in written form. And a weak policy might say something really basic, like just uses AI without giving any kind of a definition. You want to know that you would think that clear definitions essentially, again, are part of the strong foundation of an AI policy, by explicitly outlining what counts as AI, whether it's generative tools or assistive tools, whatever. You eliminate the ambiguity and you ensure that expectations are consistent across classrooms. It's also building trust with teachers and students and families, because everybody knows what the rules are and they're fairly, how they're applied fairly and transparently. And well-defined terms make policy enforcement smoother. This is really important, and it reduces the risk of disputes about, what counts as AI, as in cases of potential AI misuse. So that's really important to make sure that you have the definitions in there. Again, a lot for that reason as well. So with clarity at the start of the conversation, you kind of shift from conflict to coaching in terms of responsible use. And not only safeguards academic integrity, but it also creates a culture of shared responsibility for ethical and effective AI use in school community. Now, the guiding principles are step 3. The guiding principles are essentially the values that shape AI use in your school. Think about like equity, privacy, transparency, academic integrity, AI literacy. And this matters because the principles show stakeholders that this isn't just about discipline, it's about supporting learning in line with school values. You might say, like, our use of AI prioritizes learners first, protects privacy, ensures equitable access, and promotes transparency. Where a weak policy might say teachers decide how to use AI. So when you define the guiding principles, it ensures that AI use in your school reflects your values, not just your rules. And the principles anchor decisions in equity, privacy, transparency, and academic integrity, whatever your guiding principles are. And it gives teachers essentially a compass for everyday choices and helping families, trust the process. You include guiding principles in your policy because they provide a consistent foundation. So policies are fairly applied and responsible across, applied rather fairly and responsibly across classrooms. So the next step is step 4. And step 4 in your AI policy tells your students, your staff, etc., families, community, what is allowed versus prohibited use. And what this is essentially is a clear list, or you could do a list, you could do a table, a clear list of which AI uses are permitted, restricted, or prohibited, and it can be broken down by task type. You can get as narrow as you want or as you can on this one. And again, it depends on the situation that you're in and who you're writing the policy for or where you're writing the policy for. So this matters because it specifically removes gray area. Students and teachers know exactly what's fair game, like brainstorming. You can use AI for brainstorming, but you can't use it for your final essay. A good policy might just say, like, brainstorming, outlining, grammar feedback are good. Final essays without disclosure are no good. And a weak policy just says, don't use AI to do your homework. When you define what's allowed and what's off limits, it creates consistency across classrooms and removes the guesswork for both students and staff. This step again builds upon the fairness, and it prevents confusion, and it makes sure that expectations are not left up to interpretation. So you have clear boundaries that also help administrators uphold the academic integrity in a way that's very transparent and enforceable. I think you might notice at this point a theme with why each of the, going through why we have these steps. And a lot of it is to make sure everything is very black and white. And there isn't a lot of room for interpretation, which is very important when it comes to enforcing things. You want to include also step 5, we're halfway there, which are the assessment rules. These are specific rules for like quizzes, tests, independent assignments. And it matters because assessments measure individual understanding, so rules have to be strict. At the same time, accommodations have to be made for example, multilingual learners or students with disabilities. The accommodations that students have still have to be honored. So a good policy might say something like AI tools are not permitted during independent assessments unless part of an approved accommodation. A weak policy might say no AI on tests. Assessment rules essentially protect the validity of grades and ensure that AI never undermines an accurate measure of student learning. And when you distinguish where AI can support accommodations versus where it has to be off limits, you can safeguard both fairness and compliance. This step reinforces the trustworthiness of evaluation, while still honoring students' needs. Step 6 is disclosure and citation. This is something that I wonder if I think leading up to where we are now in terms of students using AI, I think was missing a little bit, that students were using AI but weren't necessarily saying that they were using it. Disclosure and citation are important. And what is this? These are guidelines for how students should acknowledge AI use. And it could be just a simple line, as you see here on the screen where it says good policy. It could just be a simple line, in their assignments or at the end of assignments that discloses that they used it. And they can formally cite it. MLA, APA, and Chicago now all have guidelines for how you cite AI use. So when we have it there, we're not saying to them, no, you can't use it. We're saying, if you use it, these are the ways you use it, but you have to cite it and you have to let me know that you used it. Why does this matter? Because transparency builds integrity. When you're citing properly, it prevents accusations of dishonesty. So as we just said, a good policy might, require one-line disclosure, like I use ChatGPT to brainstorm topics, and it explains how to cite AI. A weak policy might say, tell the teacher if you used AI. Requiring disclosure and proper citations ensures transparency and prevents accusations of dishonesty. This step provides a clear mechanism for accountability while also modeling digital citizenship. I know that there are some programs right now that detect or try to detect AI use in students' program or students, essays or homework, whatever students produce, which is great as a guideline, but they're not 100% accurate. Using those tools can be a little bit helpful, but not 100% helpful by any stretch of the imagination. So by doing the disclosure and using the citations, then you have less of that, confusion around dishonesty. And it helps students understand that responsible use of AI isn't just about compliance, it's about integrity and attribution and building trust in their work. Step 7 is evidence of responsible use. So it literally builds on what we were just talking about. And what is it? It's artifacts that prove students learned with AI rather than outsourcing work. So an AI artifact might include like a prompt log or collecting drafts, not just the final product, Prompt logs are, it shows the students, like they may put in an initial prompt to get some information from, for example, a large language model, and then they might ask more questions and more questions and more questions to kind of drill down to get what they're looking for. So a prompt log is an example of an AI artifact. And it matters because it shifts the focus from did they cheat to show me how you learned this. And a good policy might require 2 of 4 of the following things: a draft history, a prompt screenshot, verification notes, or a reflection. A weak policy collects only the final essay. So collecting drafts, prompt logs, and reflections shifts the focus from policing misconduct to documenting learning. And this evidence provides tangible insight into student thinking and process, and making oversight both supportive and fair. It transforms AI use into a pathway for deeper accountability and for richer demonstration of student growth. So prompt logs, as we talked about, are an example, really of a great example of how a student thinks. We don't often get to see a student's thought process in print, but a prompt log is a pretty cool way to actually see that. Step 8 is privacy and data protections. These are clear expectations for protecting personal information and approved tool lists. And it matters because students may unknowingly paste personal or private information into unsafe tools. And schools have a legal obligation to protect students from that. A good policy might say that students may only use district-approved AI tools. You can't enter personal information or identifying information into public AI platforms. And a weak policy might say, be careful what you type. And safeguarding student information is central to responsible AI use. When you set the clear expectations around how tools are chosen and what data can be shared, administrators and teachers can ensure that classrooms remain safe and trustworthy. But you have to prioritize privacy because it really does build confidence among families specifically and provides clarity for staff. And it reinforces the district's responsibility to protect learners in a digital age, which is tough, is different. Step 9 is accessibility and bias. These are expectations that AI tools support all learners and that bias monitoring is built in. It matters because without it, AI can unintentionally exclude multilingual learners or students with disabilities, or that can perpetuate stereotypes. A good policy might say, tools supports screen readers and captions. Outputs will be reviewed each term for bias. A weak policy, as you see here on your screen, might say AI use is fair for everyone. Embedding accessibility and bias monitoring ensures that AI serves all learners fairly. This step demonstrates that a proactive commitment to equity, showing that technology choices are designed to include, not exclude. It also provides a structure for, regular review, ensuring that AI supports diverse student populations without reinforcing stereotypes. Bias is a big one. At this point, the AI that we have has a lot of bias built into it. It's very important to make sure that you include that step so you're showing that you are assessing bias. So step 10, and the final step, is oversight, incidents, and review. This is essentially a roadmap for how suspected misuse will be handled and how the policy will be updated. And this matters because teachers need consistency in responding to misuse, and policies need to evolve as AI changes. A good policy might say, first misuse, you redo with guidance. Essentially, think of it as like, a checklist, like if this, then this. The first time you misuse it, you'll have to redo it with guidance. Repeat mistakes, then you're going to go with your school integrity policy. And the policy is reviewed annually by an AI committee. That's just an example. A weak policy example might be cheating will be punished. So this step ensures that policy isn't static, but it's a living document. And it offers a clear roadmap for handling incidents consistently and revisiting the policy as AI evolves. AI is evolving at such a rapid pace that although, I have here in the example, it will be reviewed annually, it might actually end up being something that you have to review twice a year because it's just evolving at such a rapid pace. And when you have an AI policy in place, fantastic, but just know that it's, like I said, a living document. So it's going to be consistently changing. Regular review and transparent procedures, that builds confidence across the school community, and it ensures that the policy remains consistent. Now, this is an example, and you could just kind of take a look at this, and I'll stop talking, but this is an example of what a weak AI policy might look like. If you just want to kind of look through that real quick. And then on the next slide, I'm going to show you an example of what a strong AI policy might look like. Now I'm going to go to the next one. You can kind of see the difference here just in the level of detail. And I can send this out to anybody that's here too.
Yeah, we can definitely send this out with the recording. We can send out your
Okay. Okay, perfect. So when we look, you just looked at the differences between the two. And we want to, let's talk about real quick why the approach is better. Well, first, it has clarity. Students and staff know exactly what's allowed and what isn't. And it has clear examples and guidance that eliminate the guesswork. It has equity where there's built-in accessibility standards and bias checks to ensure that every learner, including multilingual learners or students with disabilities, benefit fairly from this. There's accountability by requiring evidence of the process, like we talked about with drafts and prompts or reflections. Reflections are really cool too. You can ask the students, how did AI help you in this? It helps them to think a little bit more critically. And the focus there will shift from catching misconduct to supporting authentic learning. The good policy includes legal protection, like explicit attention to data privacy and compliance, which helps safeguard students and protect schools from risk. There's growth mindset there, which restorative responses emphasize reflection and improvement over punishment, reinforcing that AI is a tool for learning rather than, a threat. And by contrast, the weaker approach leaves harmful gaps. They don't provide clear definitions. There's no guidance on privacy or equity, and it relies very heavily on punishment. It not only erodes trust, but it also, kind of misses the opportunity to teach students how to use AI responsibly. Then strong and thoughtful approaches to AI use doesn't just set boundaries, it creates a framework for trust, consistency, and shared responsibility across the school community, which is really kind of the theme that's gone through each one of those steps. And when you define the expectations clearly, safeguarding students' rights and embedding practices that emphasize growth and whatnot, schools can ensure that this enhances learning rather than just, undermines it.
Diana,
Jenny, I fear that I'm coming to the end here.
Yeah, you're at less than 1 minute, but we'll share out the resources and everything in the email. Then feel free, anyone can respond with questions.